Welcome back to Puerto Rico Live. My name is Jeff Holst, and today in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what I've been doing to learn Spanish and what I think has been most effective. So be sure to stick around to hear all that. But before I get into that stuff, let me tell you a little bit about where I've been, what I've been doing, and all the stuff that's been going on. So you might not be able to tell, but this is not my apartment in Isla Verde right now. This is actually, I keep an apartment in Chattanooga. But not everyone knows that. I go back and forth between San Juan area and to Chattanooga because I still have to work. My primary income, business, working stuff is all here in Chattanooga. So I spend I've been about 100 days. It's August right now, so I've been a little less than half of the year in Puerto Rico, and I'm perfectly fine with that because I love it. And every time I land back on the island, it makes me happy. It's where I feel the most at home. But I'm gonna, I started this channel almost 2 years ago now when I decided I wanted to move to Puerto Rico, and I haven't exactly moved there because I'm back and forth all the time and stuff. But I have spent way more time in Puerto Rico as a result of that, and because of the love that I have for the island and the people of the island. But one of the things that I started early on is I started a playlist called Jeff Learning Spanish, and I haven't updated that in a long time. So that's what I wanted to do with this video. I wanted to talk to you about the progress that I've made learning Spanish. Excuse me, and why and some thoughts about learning the language from someone who has been struggling. Frankly, it's been difficult for me. Uh, so here's my thoughts. Actually, you know what? Before that, let me tell you a quick story. So there's this girl that works at a bar. It's called Hottie's. It's in Isla Verde. It's close to where I live. I go there a lot. And in fact, I talked about it. I put this video up above in one of my walking videos. I think it was the third one. I ended at Hottie's in Isla Verde. So I did 3 walking around Isla Verde videos, and they're all quite good, I think. But the one where I was talking about where I ended up at Hottie's, I anyway, the point is that's the one that's above me right now. So I was talking to her like maybe a year and a half ago, and she still works there. So it was like one of the early times that I talked to her, and she didn't speak hardly any English at all. In fact, I would say probably didn't speak English at all. Her English was worse than my Spanish is, and my Spanish is not very good, right? She walked up to me with what appeared to be a memorized statement, and she said, "I'm sorry that I never talked to you, but I don't speak English. You should learn some Spanish so that we can talk." And I replied with something like, "You should learn some English so we can talk," which is kind of rude of me because, we're in a place where it's Spanish, right? Like I should be learning Spanish for real. But I said that and I smiled and she knew I was joking a little bit and she laughed and because somebody translated for her. And anyway, so after that we'd chat occasionally, and I would try to some Spanish out on her, and she would try some English out on me, and um, anyway, we were doing this for the last several years, and her English has gotten amazing, right? Like, so just the other day, I like 3 or 4 days ago, I walked in there and I said, "Hey, you know, do you remember that time that you told me I should learn some Spanish?" And she's like, "Yeah, I remember that. And you really need to learn Spanish." And her English is so good now. And it got me thinking about the lack of progress I made. And I thought, man, like it's tough, right? I mean, like learning a language is tough, but this young lady, she's figured it out, right? So I was actually talking about this with a friend last night, and that's what kind of triggered me making this video. So my friend grew up in Iraq and moved to America 13 years ago, and she was telling me how hard it was for her to learn English when she first got here, but how grateful she was that she had worked in the service industry. So she was kind of forced into learning the language. And then I started thinking about my friend at Hottie's and how she lives in a tourist area, works in a tourist area where a lot of people don't speak Spanish. And I realized that she did have an advantage over me because she was kind of forced into it. And I thought, man, I should figure out a way to force myself to speak more Spanish. Like I should like immerse myself in a place where people can't respond to me in English. Because what happens now is I walk into the bar and I start trying to talk to them in Spanish. And as soon as I'm struggling, we all just switch over to English. Like not because they're rude, but because like they speak English. and so it's easier to switch over to English. And you know, when it gets hard, your brain wants to take the easy route. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about. That's the observation about that. And I'm going to tell you at the very end of the video what I do to reframe that, to try to force myself to continue to learn the language. And I think it's pretty effective. But so here's what I'm doing now to learn the language. So I'm doing this thing on my private Facebook group called Last Life Ever, about living the best version of your life. It's called the Kind Morning 40. And in the Kind Morning 40, it's an acronym, right? So K is for kindness, I is for invest in yourself, N and D for no distractions, and then morning for a morning routine. So this is a 40-day challenge where we do one random act of kindness per day. We do 40 minutes of investing in yourself per day. This is where I'm spending 40 minutes a day working on Spanish. Right now, you could choose something else if you wanted to join the challenge. And if you go down in the show notes, you'll see that, or I mean the comments, or well, what is it, the description below, you'll see a link to the Facebook group. If you join the Facebook group, you can find out more about the Kind Morning Challenge. But then the N and the D is for no distractions. I chose no drinking. So now what I'm doing is I'm not drinking. That's causing me to be more clear-headed, I think. And I'm utilizing the clear-headedness, right? And also the cash savings, which is amazing. Like I went to this fancy steakhouse last night, and you know, the bill was way less than normal, and I was like, oh, this is kind of nice, and not drinking, like it saves a ton of money. But utilizing this not drinking period and the clarity and the 40 minutes of investing in myself to work on my Spanish. And I feel like I do have a little bit of base. So here's what I've been doing. So for the last 300 and some days, I've been doing Duolingo every day. So I have like a 315-day streak or something on Duolingo. But I haven't, that only gives me a little tiny bit of practice a day. And then I've been doing, you know, those word finds, like where you, like, you know, there's a bunch of random letters and you have to pick the words out of there. I actually got some of those at the Walgreens in Isla Verde in Spanish, and I've been doing Spanish word finds. And then when I find a word that I don't recognize, I made a little flashcard of it, and I write the word down, and then I go look it up and figure out what the definition is and what it means, and I then have a flashcard, right? I've got the word and I've got the word on the back. So I'm trying to do that for a few minutes a day, just sit down and do a word find, maybe get 10, 15 words, make 10, 15 flashcards, and of course go over those flashcards is really useful. And by doing that, I'm sort of building my vocabulary at random, which I think is kind of useful. So I don't know anyone that's done that, but it seems to be helping me with pattern recognition. Another thing that I've been doing is trying to work on hearing Spanish. So when I first got to Puerto Rico 2 years ago, Spanish sounded like blah, 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 to me. I mean, I literally, I couldn't understand any of it. Now I can hear the words. And one of the reasons is just being around it more. But like when I'm driving around and I don't really need to be like listening to a book or something, or I'm just like, you know, maybe I'm just running to the gas station, I'm putting Spanish language radio on in my car when I drive around Chattanooga. Even if I don't understand it, I'm hearing the words. I'm also trying to watch Netflix shows in Spanish. So like I watched one of my friends, Gigi, was on La Firma, so I was watching La Firma in Spanish, and then, you know, with English subtitles so I could understand what was going on. I was watching this show called Unbroken Voice. It's a Colombian show, but it's about a Colombian girl who's like wants to sing, and her family's in, you know, she's got to overcome all this trauma and drama and stuff from, you know, her circumstances, and I've been watching that in Spanish. So those things have really been helping me. Another thing I've been doing is there's a YouTube channel called Spanish After Hours, and I'll put that below as well. There's some videos on there that I've been, that in their beginner section, where I've been listening to this young lady. She reads children's books or teaches you how to bake cupcakes, but in Spanish with subtitles. And then she says the words really slow and repeats them multiple times. And it's really good. And, you know, honestly, I was in the Kind Morning, part of my morning routine is to do grounding, which is like bare skin contact with the earth. And it's really healthy. It helps with a lot of stuff. And then another part of it is to get morning sun. absorbed into your skin. So, standing around outside, walking around outside. What I do in Isla Verde is I put on my shorts, I go outside without a shirt on, barefoot, walk down the beach, 15, 20 minutes, um, walk back, get that morning sun. It helps regulate your circadian rhythms. It helps absorb vitamin D. It's just really good for you in general. And then, of course, the touching the ground, the wet sand, very conductive. The earth has a negative charge and it pulls free radicals out of your system. It can regulate your heart rate. There's all kinds of scientific studies about this. And I found it really interesting. So I've been doing that as part of my morning routine every day. And when I'm in Chattanooga, I can't really walk on the beach because there's no beach here. So what I do here is I go out in the front yard and I do maybe some light yoga or some stretching or something, but barefoot in the grass. And because I'm not like walking on the beach or whatever, sometimes I just put some, like, I was listening to like an audiobook or something while I was doing it. And I thought I should be listening to Spanish, after hours. So I put on this video that I watched many, many times where she's reading from a children's book about a kid who finds a red book, and then there's another kid that finds a different red book. It's like a thing, right? So I'm listening to this, but I'm trying to get sunlight, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm walking around, and but I'm listening to it. I'm not seeing the video. I'm not seeing the pictures, and I realized I knew the words that she was saying. I'm not looking at captions like she's talking about edificios, and I'm like, oh, buildings. She's like, this is a big building. This is a small building. She's talking about the kid walking across the street, and I can't always come up with the words, but when I hear the words now, I know what they mean, and I feel like that is really big progress. But it's taken me a long time. So, but watching the same content over and over again in sort of discrete small chunks seems to be really useful for this. And like watch it until it gets boring. That's a thing that I've been thinking about. Like, watch something that you're very familiar with over and over again in Spanish. And then, what I realize now is I need to take the captions off of the videos and watch them again without captions. So it forced me to think it through even more. And then another thing I do is like actually pause, right, and then go back. There's another thing I've been doing that I found kind of effective. There's a course on SoundCloud called Language Transfer. It's free. SoundCloud language transfer. I've been doing that a little bit. I need to be more consistent in that. In fact, now that I think of it right now, since I still have 35 days of the Kind Morning 40 left, I think I'm going to actually incorporate doing one lesson of that into my 40 minutes of investing in myself every day. I think that's going to be really helpful. But the point is, it's about immersing yourself as much as possible, even if you can't be working in the service industry in a place that doesn't speak your language, but speaks the language you want to learn. And since I can't do that, or at least I not effectively can do that, I'm trying to do these things. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So now at the beginning, I told you that if you stuck around to the end, I would share some thoughts on why some people say it's hard to learn languages for them, and they're like, oh, I'm not good at languages like that person. And I don't believe that, actually. It's hard to speak, and you already learned a language. You're speaking English right now, probably, if you're watching this video. And if you speak English, you've learned English. A lot of people have a hard time learning English because it's not their first language. But when you were a little kid, you were forced to learn it because if you wanted to communicate, it was the only option. And it was hard then, too. And so you need to learn like a kid learns. If you walk into a bar or restaurant and you speak and you can't come up with the words, you get this feeling like, oh man, I'm so dumb, or like they're gonna think I'm stupid. But the reality is it's not true. If someone walks up to you and starts speaking to you in broken English and says like, need bathroom, please, you know what they mean, right? Even though they didn't say, I need to use the bathroom, right? You get the idea. Like, if someone says just bathroom, you get the idea. If you walk into a bar and say baño, they point at the bathroom, right? Like they know what you're looking for, and they're not offended by the fact that you don't speak all of Spanish. In fact, if anything, they're going to try to help you. They're going to try to be nice to you in most cases. But even if that weren't the case, the other thing to think about is like, the fact that it's hard is why you're quitting, right? But like it is hard to learn a language. So when you are trying to learn a new language, you can literally say to yourself, you know what? Like it's hard. And the fact that I'm finding it hard right now is proof that I'm actually learning. Like I'm actually making real progress. If it wasn't hard, that means you're not trying, right? Like it hasn't been hard for me to do Duolingo for 5 minutes a day. And as a consequence of that, I didn't learn very much, right? But this like adding in this other stuff that I'm talking about and like forcing myself, that's hard. But you know what would be hard? It was really hard for my friend when she worked in the service industry and had to learn English. It was hard, but she didn't have a choice. So figure out a way to like reframe it. Either by doing something where you don't have a choice, like burning the bridges. That's one strategy, but there is another strategy, and the one that's been working for me lately is to just say, when it feels hard, instead of feeling dumb, which is why we quit, we're like, I don't like feeling dumb. Instead of feeling dumb, just say, this is proof that I'm making progress, and embrace that hardness. Feel the hardness and say, heck yeah, this is hard. And that means I'm learning something. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm doing that kind of stuff. I'm trying to reframe that. And I'm also recognizing that it's okay that it's hard. And as I push through the hardness, I get to the funness, right? Because you know what's going to be really fun? When I can walk into Hotties in Isla Verde and I can talk to anybody there, even if they don't speak English. That's going to be fun. And you know what? My friend who harasses me constantly for the fact that she's learned English and I haven't learned Spanish will stop harassing me. And that'll be fun. And I love that. And by the way, you know who you are. If you're watching this video, you know who you are. Thank you for pressuring me into honoring the commitment to embrace the culture that I've chosen to call home. So, thank you so much for watching. This is Puerto Rico Live. I am Jeffrey Holst. As always, if you are liking my videos, please subscribe, like, ring the bell, do all the stuff, right? Share it on your Facebook. Join our Facebook group. We have a Puerto Rico Life Facebook group. Go join that right now. All that stuff is below. And until next time, this is Jeffrey Holst, Puerto Rico Life, signing out.